Welcome to Tales of the Tender West, where every sunset tells a love story. Saddle up, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more tales of the frontier. The sun hung low over Hollow Mesa, a blazing coin melting into the horizon. The land was dry as bone, the grass brittle under the boots of men come to buy another man's failure. Dust rose like a ghost from the hooves of their horses, swirling in the dying light as they gathered in front of the weather-beaten ranch house that once belonged to Clay Morris. For years, the Morris Ranch had been one of the most prosperous spreads this side of Arizona territory. Rich soil, fine cattle, and a wide stretch of grazing land that kissed the foothills of the Red Canyons. But drought and misfortune had a way of grinding dreams to dust. Now, even the corral fences leaned like tired old men. "All right, gentlemen," barked Sheriff Coyle, holding up a folded paper. "By order of the county, the Morris Ranch is up for auction. Comes with the house, 2 barns, 500 acres. And he hesitated, glancing at a small figure standing in the shadows of the porch, and 1 house servant. "She stays with the property." A ripple of uneasy laughter rolled through the crowd. The girl stood perfectly still, her hands clasped before her. Her dress was plain, sun-bleached to the color of dust, and her dark hair was tied loosely behind her neck. Her eyes, black as obsidian, didn't rise to meet anyone's gaze. She looked no older than 20, though the hard lines around her mouth spoke of years spent in silence and servitude. "Name's Anna," the sheriff said curtly. "Been here near all her life. Knows the land, the chores, the stock. Quiet girl, won't cause trouble." From the crowd, someone muttered, "Don't look white to me." Another chuckled, "She ain't. Old Clay said she was half Indian, probably why he could never sell her off. No one wants Apache blood." The laughter was coarse and cruel, but Anna didn't flinch. She'd heard it all before. Words couldn't wound her anymore, at least not the way they used to. From the edge of the gathering, a man dismounted his horse. Ethan Hale, tall and broad-shouldered, wore a faded blue coat from his Union days. A scar ran along his jaw, a thin reminder of a war that never truly ended. He'd come west to outrun ghosts, to find something that wasn't made of gunpowder and blood. He studied the ranch with the soldiers' eye measuring fences, soil, and water lines. It wasn't much, but it could be something again. Something worth rebuilding. "How much is the opening bid?" Ethan asked. $300, said Sheriff Coyle. Ethan raised his hand. 300, another man, a local cattle buyer, snorted. 350. Ethan didn't blink. 400. The bids climbed like a slow-burning fire until only Ethan and the cattle buyer remained. Finally, at $520, the other man spat in the dust and walked away. "Sold," declared the sheriff. To Mr. Ethan Hale, the papers were signed by lantern light on the porch. Anna stood silently as the sheriff handed over the keys and muttered something about keeping her in line. When the others rode off, the ranch fell quiet, save for the creak of the windmill and the hum of night insects. Ethan turned to the girl. "You can rest easy tonight. I won't treat you like property." Her eyes lifted, cautious and unreadable. "You bought the ranch," she said softly, her voice rough from disuse. "You bought me, too." He hesitated, then shook his head. "No, ma'am, I bought land, not people. You can stay here if you choose or leave if you wish." For a long moment, Anna said nothing. The wind brushed her hair across her face, and something like disbelief flickered in her eyes. "Leaped," she whispered. "There's nowhere to go." Ethan didn't press. "Then we'll start with supper," he said simply, walking toward the house. "You can tell me what needs fixing come morning." Anna stood there long after he'd gone inside, staring out at the mesa glowing red under the last light of dusk. Somewhere beyond those hills lay memories buried under years of silence, smoke, fire, and a voice calling her by a name she'd long forgotten. As the stars began to rise, a distant cry echoed through the Kenyatta hawk's scream. Sharp and wild. Anna froze, her heart stuttering. To any other soul, it was just the sound of a bird, but to her, it was something else. A signal. And far beyond the ridgeline, an Apache warrior lifted his gaze to the same stars, whispering, "Soon I will find you." The next morning broke over the mesas in streaks of gold and crimson. The Morris Ranch, though worn and cracked, seemed almost alive in the morning light, like an old soldier standing straight for inspection. Ethan Hale was already up before dawn, sleeves rolled, hammering at the broken corral gate. His movements were methodical, each swing of the hammer steady and purposeful. The sound carried across the yard, mingling with the soft cluck of hens and the creak of the windmill turning slow in the breeze. Inside the house, Anna moved like a shadow, silent, precise, and quick. She'd been up long before him, sweeping the dust from the floorboards, boiling coffee, and tending the small fire. Her steps made no sound, her eyes always lowered. When Ethan came in, sweat on his brow, she placed a tin mug of coffee on the table without a word. "Thank you," he said, taking it. She nodded but didn't meet his gaze. He noticed how her hands trembled when she reached for a pan. Not fear, exactly, more like habit, a lifetime of waiting to be struck for breathing too loud. "You don't have to serve me," he said quietly. "You're free to sit, rest, eat with me." She froze, then turned toward the window instead. "It's easier if I work." Ethan sighed and pulled up a chair. Suit yourself. But I meant what I said last night. You're not property here. Anna didn't answer. Instead, she ladled beans into a plate and placed it before him, then moved toward the door. Where are you headed? He asked. To the barn. The mare's got a limp. She needs rest. You know horses. Her lips curved faintly, the hint of a smile, almost invisible. Better than people. Ethan let her go. The day stretched long and hot. Ethan spent hours inspecting fences and checking the water lines. He found the well nearly dry and the back pasture overrun with tumbleweed. Still, the land had promised, while scarred, but strong underneath. Every time he passed the barn, he caught sight of Anna working quietly with the horses. She moved differently there, gentler. He noticed how the animals seemed to trust her instantly. Even the skittish mare leaned into her touch as if soothed by some unspoken bond. When the sun dipped low, he found her sitting outside, sharpening an old knife by the trough. You've been out here all day, he said, leaning on the fence. Most folks would have given up on this place. She looked up, eyes reflecting the fire of the sunset. I was born not far from here, she said softly. The land remembers things, even when people don't. Ethan frowned. Born here. Clay Morris said your folks brought you from she cut him off. Clay Morris said many things. Her voice carried an edge then, sharp as flint. None of them true. Ethan didn't push further. Something about her tone told him that the truth was buried deep and not yet ready to be unearthed. Instead, he changed the subject. I found something strange near the north fence. Looked like ashes, like someone built a small fire out there not long ago. Anna stiffened. How long ago? Hard to tell. Maybe a day or two. What? Her eyes darted toward the distant ridges. The wind carried a faint smell, smoke, maybe, or sage burning in the canyon. She whispered something under her breath, a few words in a tongue Ethan didn't recognize. What was that? He asked. An old prayer, she said after a moment. For protection. From what? She looked at him then, her gaze clear and haunting. From what's coming? That night, the ranch slept under a blanket of stars. Ethan sat at the kitchen table with a lantern, sketching plans for repairs. Every so often, he'd glance toward the window where the moonlight spilled silver over the yard. Outside, Anna stood barefoot in the dirt, her hair loose, her eyes turned toward the dark mesas. The wind carried the call of a distant coyote, then another sound beneath it, a drumbeat, faint, rhythmic, echoing through the canyon like a heartbeat of the earth. She knew it at once. Not danger yet, but a message, she whispered to the wind. You found me, didn't you? Far beyond the ranch, among the red rocks and shadows, Taza, the Apache warrior, crouched beside a dying fire. He pressed his hand to the ground, feeling the vibration of the land, the pull of blood and memory. He looked toward the horizon, where the faint glow of a lantern marked the ranch house, and murmured, Hold on, sister, I am close. The desert morning rose quiet and heavy, a thin veil of heat already rippling over the mesas. The Morris Ranch sat at the edge of silence, the kind that pressed against your ears and made the world feel hollow. Only the wind moved, stirring dry grass and carrying whispers from the canyon below. Ethan Hale awoke early again, restless from dreams he couldn't remember. In them, he'd heard drums, faint and steady, though, when he opened his eyes, only the groan of the windmill filled the air. He rubbed the sleep from his eyes and stepped outside. The land looked almost too still. The corral gate he'd mended the day before hung open, swinging lazily in the breeze. One of the horses, the young chestnut mare, was gone. He called. No answer. He followed hoof tracks through the brittle grass until he found her beyond the pasture, kneeling beside a patch of disturbed earth. The horse grazed quietly nearby. Anna's dark hair shimmered in the sunlight as she brushed sand from a shallow impression in the ground. Ethan frowned. Lose something. Her voice was soft but certain. No, someone came here. He crouched beside her. The prints were faint, but fresh moccasins, not boots. A man's weight, moving silently through the night, could be ranch hands from up north. Ethan offered. She shook her head. No, these steps move with care. Apache feet. He studied her carefully. You sure about that? She looked at him then, and for the first time since he'd met her, there was no fear in her eyes, only memory. I know my people's steps. The words hit him like a bullet, simple, but powerful. My people. Ethan didn't speak for a long time. The silence stretched between them until the wind picked up again, carrying with it the faint scent of smoke, distant, but distinct. You think they're watching? He asked. They've been watching for days, Anna whispered. They want to see what kind of man you are. By noon, the air shimmered with heat. Ethan busied himself in the barn, but his mind kept returning to her words. The war had taught him to distrust silence. It was never empty, only waiting. He found Anna near the well, filling buckets, her gaze shifting often toward the distant ridges. Anna, he said, leaning against a post, if they're watching, I need to know why. Are they dangerous? She hesitated, then spoke quietly. Dangerous only to those who deserve it. Do they think I do? A shadow of sadness crossed her face. They don't know you yet. They remember the men who came before, soldiers, settlers, hunters, men who took what wasn't theirs. Ethan's jaw tightened. I was one of those men once. I know, she said, surprising him. You move like a soldier. You carry ghosts in your shoulders. He gave a dry laugh. You read me too well. Her eyes softened. I've known men who carried guilt. It smells like gunpowder, even years after the war. For a long while they stood there, the only sound the creak of the bucket rope. Then Ethan said, if your people come here, I won't raise a gun unless they give me reason. But I need to know, are they coming for you? Anna turned her eyes toward the red cliffs, where a hawk circled lazily. Yes, she said finally, they're coming for me. That night, the world held its breath. The wind fell still. Even the crickets seemed to hush. Ethan sat by the porch with his rifle across his knees, though his heart wasn't set on fighting. Inside, Anna lit a single candle and sat by the window, staring out toward the canyons. The flame danced shadows across her face, making her look both older and younger, a woman trapped between two worlds. Out beyond the ridge, a small campfire flickered far enough not to threaten, close enough to send a message. Ethan noticed it first. There, he said, pointing. Anna joined him on the porch, her breath catching. That's not just a fire, she whispered. It's a sign. What kind of sign? She watched the flames pulse, once, twice, then pause. A pattern, a memory she could almost hear. It means, her voice faltered. It means a warrior is near. Ethan felt the hair rise on his arms. The drums he thought were dreams now echoed faintly through the night air, distant but real. He turned to Anna, and she met his gaze. Fear and longing tangled in her expression. He's coming, she said softly. My brother has found me. The wind came down from the mesas that night, hot and dry, carrying the scent of sage and smoke. The fire on the ridge had burned out, but its glow still haunted the darkness like an ember refusing to die. Ethan Hale sat on the porch with his rifle laid across his lap, the oil lamp behind him flickering low. He didn't expect trouble, but the old soldier in him didn't sleep easily when there was one fire too many in the hills. Inside the house, Anna sat near the window, her hands clasped tight. The candle before her had burned low, dripping wax like tears. Every gust of wind rattled the glass, and every shadow seemed to shift with purpose. Go to sleep, Ethan called softly from the porch. You'll need your strength tomorrow. I can't, she replied. He's close. Ethan frowned, glancing toward the canyon. Who? The man you spoke of, your brother. She nodded once, eyes distant. His name is Taza. He was my mother's son before the world burned. He'll come when the moon is high. And if he does, Ethan said carefully, what does he want? Anna hesitated. To take me home. If there's still a home to go to. Hours passed. The ranch lay silent except for the groan of the windmill and the soft shuffle of horses in the corral. Ethan dozed lightly, head against the post, until the mare's sudden snort snapped him awake. Something moved in the dark. He rose slowly, eyes narrowing toward the edge of the yard. There a figure, barely a shadow among shadows, watching. Ethan lifted the rifle. You there? Step into the light. The man didn't flinch. Instead, he stepped forward with calm, deliberate steps. Moonlight fell across him, revealing a tall, broad-shouldered Apache warrior. His hair was bound in leather, his chest bare save for a string of carved bone. In his hand, he carried a bow, unstrung but ready. Anna gasped, rising from her chair. Taza. The warrior's eyes sharp and dark as a hawk softened at the sound of her voice. He said something in Apache, words that carried through the night like wind over stone. Ethan held his rifle steady. State your business. Taza ignored him, walking closer until the moonlight touched the scars on his arms. His voice was deep, low, filled with something that sounded like both anger and relief. You keep her here, he said, in halting English. She, your servant. She's no servant, Ethan said evenly. She stays because she chooses. Taza's eyes burned. She does not choose chains. Anna stepped between them before Ethan could reply. Her heart raced, torn between two worlds standing on the same patch of dirt. Taza, stop. He's not like the others. He's kind. Taza looked at her long, as if searching for the truth in her face. Then, in their native tongue, he whispered, You have forgotten who you are. Her breath caught. That name, she hadn't heard it spoken aloud since she was a child. It struck through her like lightning, memories flooding back. Fire in the night, her mother's arms, soldiers shouting, the world tearing apart. She whispered, trembling, Don't call me that. But Taza's gaze was steady. You are my sister. The blood of our mother runs in you. You were stolen, sold to these people like a thing. His voice cracked, the pain raw beneath the warrior's mask. I came to bring you home. Ethan lowered his rifle slightly, watching the two with guarded sympathy. If she wants to go, I won't stop her, he said quietly. But she stays if she chooses to. Anna turned to him, torn. You don't understand. If I go, they'll follow. If I stay, he'll never stop coming. Taza's eyes flicked toward Ethan. This man is not your kin. His world took ours. He lives on the bones of our fathers. I know, she said softly, but he gave me my name back even if he doesn't know it. The air grew still again. The moment balanced on a knife's edge. Finally, Taza lowered his bow and took a step back. At dawn, I will return, he said. You will come with me then, or I will take you. He turned, vanishing into the darkness like a shadow melting into stone. Ethan exhaled slowly, his heart pounding. He means it, doesn't he? Anna's eyes glistened in the lantern light. Yes, and if he returns with others, there won't be a ranch left standing. The wind moaned through the canyon, carrying with it the echo of a name Ethan now understood was never meant to be Anna. Nahila, he whispered under his breath. She closed her eyes. Don't say it, she murmured. Some names wake the past, and the past doesn't sleep easily. Morning came gray and uneasy, the kind of light that doesn't bring peace, only reveals what the night tried to hide. The Morris Ranch stood still beneath a restless sky. The horses pawed nervously at the corral, and the wind carried the scent of dust and rain unusual for the desert, but fitting for the storm that was brewing between hearts and histories. Ethan Hale had barely slept. He sat at the kitchen table, staring into a cup of coffee gone cold. His mind turned over the night before, Taz's words, Anna's tears, and that name that now haunted him, Nahila. He heard soft footsteps behind him. Anna entered quietly, her hair loose, her eyes shadowed from sleeplessness. He's coming back, Ethan said, without looking up. I know, she replied. Her voice was calm, but her hands twisted at her apron. He never breaks a promise. You could leave before he gets here, Ethan said. Take one of the horses and ride north. There's a stage line 20 miles out. I'll give you money. She shook her head. If I run, he'll follow, and he won't come alone next time. Ethan looked up then, meeting her eyes. Then tell me the truth. Who are you really, Anna? She hesitated, the weight of her silence thick as stone. Then she set down the coffee pot and spoke slowly, as if pulling each word from a wound that hadn't healed. My name is Nahila. My people were of the Chiricahua Apache, the Eagle clan. My mother was called Taha. My brother Dezau was the war chief's son. I was 6 when the soldiers came. Ethan didn't move. The air seemed to still around her voice. They came at dawn, she continued, her eyes distant, unfocused. The sky was red from fire before the sun even rose. My father fell trying to protect us. Taza carried me into the canyon, but I was taken. Soldiers found me hiding under a rock ledge. They dragged me back, tied my hands, and took me to the fort. She swallowed hard. I was given to a trader, then to a family. They said my name was too strange, so they called me Anna, and I forgot what it felt like to be Nahila. Ethan leaned back, guilt crawling beneath his skin. I was stationed near these lands once, he said quietly. During the campaigns, we were told we were protecting settlers. No one told us about children being taken. Anna's eyes lifted to his, sharp as flint. Would it have mattered if they did? The question hung between them like smoke. Ethan had no answer. After a long moment, she softened. I've lived half my life as someone else, pretending not to hear the wind when it spoke my name. But now my brother knows I'm alive, and he won't rest until he brings me home. Ethan ran a hand over his face. If he means to take you, I can't stop him. But if the town hears Apaches are near, they'll ride out here with rifles. There'll be blood on both sides. I don't want blood, she said. I only want peace. But peace doesn't come easy to those who've been owned. By noon, the horizon shimmered with heat. Ethan stood on the porch, scanning the distance, rifle slung over his shoulder. Every instinct told him a fight was coming, but his heart told him something else. This wasn't his enemy. Anna worked in silence near the barn, stacking tools, her movements deliberate. She looked smaller beneath the open sky, a lone figure carrying centuries of sorrow. The hawk returned that afternoon, circling high above the ranch. It gave a single cry and drifted west, toward the canyon. Anna froze when she saw it. He's close, she whispered. Ethan stepped down from the porch. Then we talk before anyone draws steel. I'll hear his side too. She looked at him, searching his face for any sign of deceit. You'd trust a man your people called savage. Ethan's jaw tightened. I've seen savages on both sides of a gun. I'm done judging by skin. Her eyes softened. You may not understand our ways, Ethan Hale, but if Taza comes here and sees you as my captor, he'll strike. If he sees you as my friend, maybe he'll listen. Ethan nodded slowly. Then I'll make him see the truth. The wind shifted, again carrying the low rumble of hooves from far off, faint but steady. Anna's heart began to race. That's him, she whispered. And he's not alone this time. Ethan gripped his rifle and looked out across the shimmering plains. On the horizon, small shapes moved, riders, maybe 5 or 6, dark against the burning light. Then it's time, he said grimly. Let's pray, they come for peace. Anna's voice trembled as she answered. Peace is what they buried years ago. The wind howled through the dry grass as if to answer her, carrying with it the scent of smoke and the first drum beats of the approaching storm. By the time the sun began to sink behind the mesas, the horizon shimmered with heat and tension. The shapes Anna had seen were no mirage. 5 Apache riders moved like shadows over the red earth, their horses silent, their presence unmistakable. Ethan Hale stood on the porch with his rifle in hand, the air thick with dust and unease. He'd faced men before, bandits, soldiers, killers, but this was different. These men didn't come for money or land. They came for blood and belonging. Beside him, Anna gripped the porch railing, her knuckles pale. Her heart pounded as the riders slowed near the fence line. In front rode Taza, tall and commanding, his dark hair braided and his expression unreadable. Ethan called out first, "You're on my land. Let's talk before we make enemies out of strangers." Taza raised a hand, signaling his riders to halt. The others fanned out behind him, bows and rifles slung but ready. Dust swirled around them like a storm about to break. When Taza finally spoke, his voice carried the calm of someone used to being obeyed. "We do not comestives? Bilagana Weichma? We come for what was taken." Anna stepped forward before Ethan could answer. "Taza, please. No guns, no threats. This man has shown me kindness." Taza's gaze shifted to her, and something softened behind the hardness of his warrior's face. "Kindness does not undo chains," he said. Ethan lowered his weapon slightly. "She's free here. She stays because she wants to." The other warriors murmured in Apache, disbelief flickering among them. Taza held up a hand to silence them. "If that is true," he said, "then she will speak her own choice. Before her blood, and before the sky." Anna looked between the two men, the brother, who represented the life she'd lost, and the man who'd given her a chance to reclaim her name. The air seemed to tremble as all eyes turned to her. "I want peace," she said, her voice steady, though her hands shook. "But I will not be dragged away like property again. Not by white men, not by my own kin." A murmur swept through the Apaches. Ethan felt the words cut through the moment like a blade. Taz's jaw tightened. "You speak like them," he said bitterly. "You dress like them, eat their food. You even hide behind one." Ethan stepped closer, tension in every muscle. "She doesn't hide behind me. I stand beside her. That's the difference." For a heartbeat, no one moved. The silence was sharp, dangerous. Then one of the younger warriors spat in the dirt. "You talk too much, white soldier. We should burn this place and take her." Taza barked something in Apache, his voice harsh with command. The young warrior fell silent, glaring but obeying. Anna stepped down from the porch, her bare feet sinking into the dust. "If you fight," she said in their tongue, "the blood of both worlds will stain this ground again. Is that what you want, Taza?" Taza turned away for a long moment, gazing at the distant canyons. The memory of fire seemed to flicker in his eyes. "We lost everything because we stayed silent," he said quietly. "Peace has cost us too much." Ethan's voice softened. "And war will cost you what's left." The two men locked eyes, soldier and warrior, both tired of graves, both bound by ghosts. Finally, Taza said, "I will not fight you today, but the settlers won't stop. They'll come for us soon, and when they do, your ranch will burn with the rest." "I'll take that risk," Ethan replied. "This land's been soaked in enough blood already." Taza looked at him for a long time, then turned to Anna. His tone gentled, almost a whisper. "Nihila, I will come again when the moon is full. If you wish to return to your people, I will take you home. No one will stop me." Anna's eyes filled with tears. "And if I choose to stay," Taz's answer came without hesitation, "then I will guard you from afar. A hawk never forgets its kin." With that, he mounted his horse and signaled his riders. They turned toward the canyon, their silhouettes fading into the growing dusk. Ethan watched until the last figure vanished. Only then did he lower his rifle and exhale, shoulders heavy. Anna stood beside him, tears tracing the dust on her cheeks. "He'll come back," she whispered. "I know," Ethan said quietly, "and when he does, maybe we'll both be ready to face what we've been running from." The wind rose again, sweeping through the dry fields. Somewhere beyond the mesas, a hawk cried, haunting, proud, and free. The next 2 days passed in silence, but peace in the frontier was always borrowed time. Ethan patched the fences, checked the cattle, and tried to pretend the air didn't hum with tension. Yet every crow-caw and creak of the windmill made his hand twitch toward his rifle. Anna could feel it too. She'd spent her life sensing danger before men ever saw it. At dusk on the third day, as the light bled red across the plains, riders came, not Apaches this time, but settlers. Dust billowed behind them like smoke from a burning town. Ethan counted 8 men. At their head was Sheriff Dalton, a broad man with a voice as hard as his badge. Behind him rode ranchers Ethan Newman, from town, who'd once shared whiskey and poker, but now looked ready for war. "Ethan, hail." Dalton shouted as they drew near. "You got some explaining to do." Ethan stepped out onto the porch, unarmed but steady. Anna stood behind the screen door, her heart pounding. "What's this about?" Ethan asked, though he already knew. Dalton spat into the dirt. "Word is, an Apache war party rode through your land. Folks saw M with their own eyes. You harboring them, or just cozying up for trade. They came and went in peace," Ethan said flatly. "Nobody's hiding here." One of the ranchers, Ben Crowley, barked a bitter laugh. "Peace? You expect us to believe that? My herd's gone missing. Tracks lead east, toward their canyon. Maybe you helped them fill their bellies." Ethan's jaw tensed. "I'm not your enemy, Crowley. You lost cattle. Take it up with the trail, not with me." But Dalton's eyes had already slid past him to the faint figure inside the house. "And who's that behind you?" he said slowly. "The girl the auctioneer said came with the property. Funny thing, someone told me she ain't white." Anna froze. The men's stares burned through the window. Crowley sneered. He's keeping one of them right under our noses." Before Ethan could move, Dalton raised his hand. "Bring her out." Ethan stepped forward, voice sharp. "She doesn't answer to you." "Maybe she oughta," another rancher muttered. "You think we'll sit by while an Apache spy lives among us? Hell, maybe she's the one sending signals to the tribe." Ethan's voice dropped to a growl. "Watch your mouth." Crowley swung down from his horse, hand brushing the butt of his revolver. "Or what, soldier boy? You'll fight us for her." Over an Indian girl, the air went deathly still. Ethan saw it the spark before the explosion. He reached for his rifle, leaning against the porch post. But Crowley was faster. The first shot cracked through the twilight. Glass shattered, wood splintered. Anna screamed as the bullet tore through the window frame inches from her head. Ethan dove for cover, firing back instinctively. His bullet struck Crowley's hat clean off, grazing his ear. Chaos erupted. The settlers scattered for cover, guns blazing. Horses reared and screamed. Inside, Anna ducked low, heart hammering. Smoke filled the room, the acrid scent of gunpowder mixing with fear. Ethan shouted, "Stay down." She crawled toward the back door, desperate to reach the barn where the spare rifle lay. Bullets thudded against the walls. Outside, Ethan rolled into the dirt. Firing from behind a water trough, he could hear Dalton shouting, "Burn him out if you have to." Anna burst from the back door and sprinted toward the barn. Dust kicked up around her feet as a bullet struck the fence post beside her. She didn't stop. Her lungs burned, but she reached the rifle, loading it with trembling hands. Then a whistle cut through the air. The settlers froze. From the ridgeline beyond the field came a sound like thunder. Hooves, dozens of them. Through the haze, Taza and his warriors appeared. Riding hard, arrows ready, eyes blazing. Dalton turned white. "Damn it, they're here." The Apaches swept down like a storm, circling the ranch. Their arrows struck the dirt near the riders, forcing them to scatter. No one dared to shoot back. Now they were outnumbered and outflanked. Taza rode straight toward the porch, his horse kicking up clouds. "Sister," he shouted, "are you safe?" Anna raised the rifle but didn't fire. She lowered it when she saw his face. "I am," she called back. "But they'll kill Ethan." Taz's eyes flicked to the man crouched behind the trough, gun still in hand. The warrior nodded once, then turned his horse toward the settlers. "No blood," he ordered his men, in Apache. "Drive them out." The settlers fled into the night, shouting curses, leaving behind smoke, dust, and fear. When silence finally settled, Ethan rose slowly. The barrels of his rifle still smoked. Taza dismounted, his face carved with anger and respect. "You fight your own people to protect us," he said. "Why?" Ethan met his gaze. "Because what they're doing isn't justice. It's hate." Anna stepped between them, breathless and shaking. "Enough fighting. Please, no more." Taza nodded grimly. "Then we must end it before the rest come." Ethan looked toward the horizon, where torchlight flickered in the distance. More men were coming from town. He exhaled. "Then we'd better be ready." The three of them, warrior, rancher, and woman once called servant, stood side by side under the rising moon, surrounded by the broken pieces of a world caught between peace and war. The night pressed heavy over the plains, thick with the scent of smoke and danger. The settlers had fled, but not far enough. A thought could see torchlight flickering in the distance like fireflies born of fury. They'd be back by dawn, and this time they'd bring numbers. Inside the ranch house, Anna bound Ethan's arm where a bullet had grazed him. Her hands were gentle but firm, her brow furrowed with worry. "You shouldn't have stood in front of them," she whispered. "You could have been killed." Ethan winced as she tightened the cloth. "Better me than you. They were aiming for you, Anna. All I did was make sure they missed." Across the room, Taza stood near the window, watching the horizon. The flickering glow of the approaching mob danced across his face, painting him in firelight. His warriors were scattered through the fields, laying low, guarding every shadow. "They will come again," he said. "More men, more guns. This place will not stand." Ethan looked up. "You think I don't know that?" Taza turned to him, his voice sharp as flint. "Then why stay? Leave this house. Let them burn it. The girl comes with me back to her people where she belongs." Anna froze, the bandage half. Her eyes moved from one man to the other. "My people?" she asked softly. "Taza, they might not even remember me." Taz's expression flickered with hurt. "I remember you," he said quietly. "Our mother sang your name to the stars. I found the ashes of her song when they took you away." A silence hung between them, raw and fragile. Ethan broke it. "Maybe she can remember both worlds," he said. "Maybe she doesn't have to choose." Taz's eyes burned. "That's what every settler says before they take everything from us. You talk of peace, but your peace always means we kneel." Ethan slammed his hand on the table. "I've done my share of kneeling too, Apache. I fought in your wars. I saw the killing, men, women, children. I buried what was left of my own platoon after an ambush near the Verde River. You think I came here to fight again?" The room fell silent. Even Anna didn't breathe. Taza studied him, something shifting behind his hard gaze. "You fought us?" he asked. Ethan nodded. "And I hated myself for it. I was a good soldier and a terrible man. I came here to build something. Clinty, stop taking what wasn't mine." For the first time, Taz's voice softened. "Then why help me now?" Ethan looked toward Anna, because she reminded me what humanity looks like. Outside, a coyote howled, the sound long and mournful. The three stood there, bound by loss and survival, knowing the coming dawn might end them all. Finally, Taza stepped forward. If you truly mean to protect her, you fight with me tonight. When the sun rises, we either die with honor or live as men who did not run. Ethan rose, gripping his rifle. Then we fight together. Anna caught his arm, eyes wide. No, please, there's still time to run. You can both live. Ethan smiled sadly. Running's what got me here. Standing is what keeps me human. Taza handed her a small charma piece of turquoise on a leather string. For luck, he said. Our mother wore this when she gave you your name. Nahila, the one who returns. Anna clutched it, tears glistening in her eyes. Then let me stand with you. Taza shook his head. You will guard the fire. If we fall, you light it bright enough for the sky to see. She wanted to protest, but something in his tone silenced her. By the time the first light touched the horizon, the mob appeared, dozens of men on horseback, torches raised high, their shouts echoing across the land. Ethan and Taza took their places behind the corral, rifle steady. Taza crouched among the rocks, bow drawn, his warriors silent as stone. Remember, Ethan said through gritted teeth, no killing unless we have to. Taza's eyes flashed. Then pray they don't force our hands. The settlers charged. The first gunfire cracked through the dawn, echoing like thunder. Ethan's rifle barked, dropping a torch before it hit the barn. Arrows whistled through the air, striking the dirt near the riders' feet, scattering their horses. Anna watched from the porch, trembling, the turquoise charm clutched in her fist. She whispered to the wind in both tongues, English and Apache, a prayer for mercy. In the chaos, smoke rose again, curling into the pale morning, and through that haze, two figures fought side, by side a soldier and a warrior. Enemies once, brothers now in the fight for one woman's freedom. As the battle raged, Ethan took a bullet to the side. He fell, gasping, blood soaking his shirt. Taza caught him before he hit the ground. Hold on, brother. Ethan managed a faint smile. Guess, I'm finally earning my redemption. Taz's eyes hardened with sorrow. Not yet. Not until this is finished. The sunrise bled gold across the ranch, painting the land with both fire and hope. And as the last of the settlers fled in defeat, Anna ran to them, kneeling beside Ethan, tears streaming down her face. He looked up at her, voice faint but steady. Told you, I'd stand beside you. The world seemed to hold its breath as the first light touched his face. And for a moment, just a moment, the frontier felt at peace. The battle had ended, but the silence that followed was heavier than gunfire. Smoke drifted lazily over the blackened corral. The wind carried the smell of gunpowder, blood, and dust. The land, Ethan's land, had seen war once again. Ethan Hale lay propped against a broken fence post, his shirt dark with blood. Anna knelt beside him, her small hands pressing against his wound. Stay with me, she whispered, her voice trembling. Please, Ethan, you can't leave now. He smiled weakly, his breath shallow. I've been shot worse. Maybe, he joked, though the strain in his eyes betrayed him. You've got a soft touch, Anna. Don't waste it on patching up a fool. She shook her head, tears streaking her dirt-covered face. You're not a fool. Behind them, Taza surveyed the field. His warriors moved silently, tending to their own wounded and gathering arrows. The settlers had fled for good this time, leaving behind their torches, their pride, and a lesson carved into the earth. When Taza turned, his gaze softened at the sight of Anna and Ethan together. He walked over slowly, his boots silent against the dust. Your people won't come back, he said quietly. They learned that this land has guardians. Ethan looked up, pain etched deep in his face. Not guardians, just people tired of hate. Taza crouched beside him. For the first time since he'd arrived at the ranch, the warrior's tone carried something close to respect. You fought with honor, white man. You could have run. Instead, you stood between us and death. Ethan tried to laugh, but it came out as a cough. Guess I was due for a good decision. Anna gripped his hand. You're going to make it. I'll take you to town. Get a doctor. Taza shook his head. No doctor in this town will treat him. They'll say he turned traitor. The words cut deep, because both of them knew he was right. Ethan's eyes fluttered open again, heavy with exhaustion. Then I'll stay here. If this ranch is going to see me die, it'll be as mine, not theirs. Anna's tears fell freely now. Don't say that. You're going to live. You have to. He looked at her, his voice softer. You gave me something worth living for. That's more than most men ever get. Taza rose, turning toward the horizon. We must go soon. The army will come when they hear what happened here. They'll blame us all. Anna stood, heart twisting. Then take me with you, please. If I stay, they'll hang me next to his grave. Taza looked at her long and hard. You are Apache by blood, but you've lived as them. Our people will not trust easily. I'll earn it, she said, lifting her chin. If I can earn kindness from a soldier, I can earn forgiveness from my kin. Taza's eyes flickered with pride. Then come, but you must leave him now. Anna's heart cracked at the words. She turned to Ethan, her fingers trembling as they brushed the side of his face. I don't want to leave you. He caught her wrist, his grip weak but sure. You have to, Anna, go where you're meant to go. You've spent too long belonging to everyone but yourself. A sob broke free. I'll come back for you. He smiled faintly. You already have. She leaned down, pressing her forehead to his. For a heartbeat, there was no war, no division, only the soft hum of breath and memory between two souls who had found peace in the ruins. Then, reluctantly, she rose. Taza placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Together they walked toward the horses waiting near the canyon's edge. As she mounted, she turned back one last time. Ethan sat beneath the rising sun, bloodied but unbroken, his rifle across his knees. The wind lifted his hair, and for a fleeting moment, he looked like a man carved from the very earth he'd tried to protect. Taza gave a short whistle, and the horses moved out. Anna glanced over her shoulder until the ranch was no more than a blur of dust and smoke. She pressed the turquoise charm against her chest, whispering, "Goodbye, Ethan." Behind her, the plains stretched endless and wild, the sky painted with golden grief, and though she rode toward her people, her heart stayed with the man who had taught her that freedom was not just escapade, was choice. Years passed. Seasons rolled across the plains like slow-moving waves, reshaping everything they touched. The old ranch, once broken by war and silence, grew wild again. Grass swallowed the fence posts, and wind howled through the sagging barn. But even ruin can remember. Every so often, travelers crossing the Arizona frontier spoke of a place they called the Singing Ranch. They said the wind there carried a woman's voice, soft, haunting, and filled with longing. Some swore they saw her figure walking at dusk, her hair black as the raven's wing, her eyes full of the desert's sorrow. Few knew her name. Fewer knew her story. The woman who once called herself Anan, and again Nahila, rode the borderlands beside her brother Taza, living among her people, healing from the wound of two worlds. The Apaches had learned to respect her courage. She had become a healer, a storyteller, a bridge between past and present, yet, every time the wind whispered from the west, she felt the call of another home, the one made not of blood, but of bond. One spring evening, when the desert blossoms turned the mesas pink and gold, Nahila saddled her horse and rode alone toward that call. The journey took 2 days. When she reached the valley where Ethan Hale's ranch once stood, the sight struck her heart like lightning. The house was half collapsed, its roof caved in, its porch swallowed by weeds. The corral was empty, the windmill still. But the land was alive. Wildflowers bloomed where graves might have been, and the creek that once ran dry now trickled softly again. She dismounted, her boots sinking into the warm earth. The air smelled of sage and rain. Slowly, she walked toward the remains of the house. The door hung by one hinge. Inside, the air was heavy with dust and memory. She ran her fingers over a wooden table, scarred by time and bullets. Then she saw it a tin box, half buried under fallen boards. Her heart hammered as she knelt and pulled it free. Inside lay Ethan's old journal, wrapped in faded cloth. The leather cover was cracked, but his handwriting was unmistakable, deliberate, and worn by weather. She opened it, and a single pressed feather fell out, a hawk's feather, placed there like a signature. The first page read, "If anyone finds this place, know that peace once lived here, though it came late." Her name was Anabat. That was never truly her name. She belonged to the wind, long before I ever met her. If she ever returns, I hope she knows I never sold her, never claimed her. I only stood beside her, and I always will. Nahila's breath caught, the pages blurred through her tears. She turned another page, finding chesmal, rough drawings of the ranch, the barn, the horizon, at sunset. But one page made her stop. It was a portrait of her sitting on the porch, hair braided, eyes lifted toward the sky. The caption beneath it read, "Freedom wears her face." Her hand trembled as she traced the lines. For years she had carried guilt, thinking she'd abandoned him. But now she saw he hadn't been left behind. He had become part of the land itself. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance. The wind rose, carrying with it the scent of rain and the sound of a lone hawk circling above. Nahila stepped out onto the porch and looked to the horizon. The first drops of rain began to fall, darkening the dust. She lifted her face to the sky, feeling it wash over her, mingling with her tears. From the saddlebag, she took the turquoise charm, the one Taza had given her that night. She tied it to the porch rail, where it caught the wind and shimmered like a living flame. "This was never your cage," she whispered to the earth. "It was your promise." She stood there for a long time, until the rain softened to a whisper when she finally mounted her horse and turned to leave. The ranch seemed to hum low and peaceful, as though a spirit breathed through it, and for just a moment, as lightning flashed across the plain, she thought she saw him, Ethan, standing in the doorway, smiling, not as a ghost, but as part of the wind itself. That night, travelers who passed through the valley swore they saw a woman in white riding beneath the storm, her braid trailing like black silk. They said the wind carried two voices, then one in Apache, one in English speaking the same word, freedom.